Hey, what's up, y'all? Classic Kev back with another episode. Y'all, honestly, it's probably the most important episode yet because on today's episode, we have Brent McCrossen, the CEO of Gripnr. Brent, what's happening, man?
Hey, Kevin, how you doing today? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So as y'all know who watch this channel, I'm based out of New Orleans, Louisiana, and Brent is actually the CEO of a blockchain-based, Web3-based startup out of New Orleans, Louisiana. So are y'all like one of the only Web3-based companies in New Orleans right now?
I know of at least one other, right? Gilded
Okay.
is a Web3 based company. I would summarize it, which is probably not perfectly accurate, but kind of like the Stripe of blockchain,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of the kind of back office accounting stuff. That's a New Orleans based company, extremely sophisticated team of engineers, great group of human beings. So between us and them, those are the two that I know, but I'm confident there are others quietly building in the background that haven't surfaced yet. And we certainly want to encourage that. The more, the better.
Oh yeah. So Brent, y'all's focus though is blockchain-based gaming though, correct?
It is. We're specifically tabletop role-playing games, right? So things like Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons. There's hundreds of indie titles in the tabletop role-playing space, and our objective is to bring that onto the blockchain. And there's strong logic behind it because it's really custom fit for blockchain technologies. Because all of tabletop role-playing game is you're effectively rolling dice, gathering data, and that data informs the character, and it informs how the character performs in the story. And blockchain is really just a log of data based entries anyway, right? So putting those games on blockchain seemed like a natural fit to us and worth the experiment. And we've been building it for, I guess, officially since the middle of December. Patrick and I were working on it before that, a couple of months prior, through Revelry Startup Studio, where I've been the managing director, kind of looking at the market, doing validation processes and the business model itself. But yeah, we've been at it, effectively since December with a real team going at it hard.
Nice, nice. And yeah, that's one thing, when I'm investing, I do think that blockchain Web3 based gaming, that's going to be a sector that can really make people a lot of money because like you said, these any type of RPG tabletop game with rarities and stats, it's the blockchain, it's like the perfect marriage. So I definitely think it's very innovative what y'all are doing, even though myself, I'm not a big Dungeons and Dragon tabletop player, but I understand what the allure is. I understand why people like those type of games so much. And yeah, like you said, it's perfect for Web3.
Yeah, it is. We've been having a lot of fun building it, and there's certainly money coming into the space. Axie Infinity is kind of the most well-known globally, but there are many others. They're not based in New Orleans, but the founder is a New Orleans person. Kevin Lynn's got a Web3 gaming company called Duskbreakers, right? And that's more of a kind of AAA video game RPG. Kevin was the founder of Twitch, right? So you
Wow.
see folks with that kind of history of success who are dedicated to the space, who have a kind of a history of innovation. I mean, Twitch was certainly an innovation in its own right, moving kind of all their talents, their time, their attention, and their treasure to building in these ways. It's just it's kind of a validating signal of how strong the market is and kind of how the technology trends are moving. Alex Ohana, I think is how you say his last name, from Reddit. He partnered up with Polygon, which is a blockchain that we're building on top of, to finance $200 million that was going into gaming companies building on the Polygon blockchain, right? So there's little question that these technology trends are moving, and they're not going away.
Yeah, and that's actually something I wanted to talk to you about because on this channel, we are investing in a lot of layer one protocols, and I understand that Polygon Matic is a layer two scaling solution for Ethereum. Now, I noticed, we talk about this all the time on my channel that there's a lot of big games built on Polygon Matic. Sandbox, I believe, is built on Polygon
Yep.
Matic. Decentraland, so a lot of
True.
metaverse type. So, what is it about this Polygon Matic? Because as an investor, I don't think I tried reading the white paper. I didn't understand it. So what is it about Polygon Matic that is the gaming kind of platform?
Yeah, I mean, for us at least, and keep in mind, I'm not a technical co-founder, right? We have engineers that write all the code, but from my perspective, as CEO of the company, why we chose to build on Polygon was because the scalability of the platform and how it reduces costs makes the gameplay more feasible, right? So we've all heard the challenges and the complaints even about the gas fees on Ethereum. And when you build on Polygon, it's literally a fraction of those gas fees. So when you play on the Gripnr protocol, and in our first game world is called the Glimmering, right? Every time you interact with the game, your character is leveling up through gameplay. There's dice rolls that are captured to demonstrate actual gameplay itself, and all of those things are effectively putting data back onto the blockchain. And if you needed to do that on an L1 like Ethereum, the cost would be so expensive nobody would ever play it. So you're seeing groups like Sandbox and Decentraland and Gripnr on the L2s because they're faster and they're actually feasible, they're affordable.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's kind of why I originally invested in Polygon Matic when I came to the same conclusions y'all did. So I do think y'all made a very good decision, because I would think what blockchain you build on is really important. I guess what I'd want to ask you though, as far as the game mechanics, I'm not too familiar with those type of games. It is a play to earn game though, correct?
I mean, there's certainly play to earn elements about the game. What we really focus on is the play to progress, right? And ultimately, if a game is not fun, then it's not going to be sustainable. So when people, play the Glimmering, right, on the Gripnr protocol, the outcome of those games is, you're going to earn loot, which is maybe you killed the dragon, you got a new sword. That sword, if it's a really rare sword, is going to be its own NFT. It could hold and store and transfer value. And there'll also be a currency, which currently we're calling Opal, that we may change that by the time we actually launch the token. But you'll be able to earn tokens as well, right? And while we think that those things are good and fair, and it's a wonderful way to have people be able to store and receive value for the contributions they make to gameplay, ultimately the focus needs to be on the gameplay itself, right?
I agree. Gameplay is everything. So I guess what I'm asking, so the player base will be able to play these games, earn items, which will be the items will be NFTs, which will be tradable and sellable though, correct?
Exactly. Not every single item. So you get like through your adventure, you get 100 feet of rope. We're not going to turn that into an NFT. But if somewhere in your adventure, there's a really rare item that you encounter through gameplay, then yeah, those things will be created and made as NFTs, and you'll be able to collect them and trade them as you would any other NFT.
No, that's interesting, because I think one thing with gamers, the gaming community, they kind of understand the NFT and blockchain technology. They're adopting it faster, I guess, because whether it be World of Warcraft or something like that, they come from an era of skins, of in-game items, and what's kind of what's disheartening for gamers, I guess, is that say it's World of Warcraft, if you don't play that game anymore, those items are obsolete. Or if the game progresses too much with this, I mean, it's digital collectibles, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of concepts. One is composability, and the other one is transferability, right? So composability is the concept of being able to grab an item or earn an item in a world and bring it to some other element or some other protocol across Web3, an interoperability element. And then the transferability is the concept of, hey, I'm done with this item, or maybe I just am done with this game for now. I want to go off. You can sell that just like you would any other NFT asset on OpenSea or Rareable or otherwise, right? Platforms that are NFT marketplaces. And that's not, I spend, unfortunately, probably $30 a month of my kids' Roblox habit, right? When they're buying the skins and everything else, and they can't transfer that, right? In addition, a lot of those kind of Web 2 protocols, they certainly have increased earning capabilities for creators, but they're still taking the majority of the revenue, right? So your take rate is our opportunity. And what Gripnr means by saying we're a protocol, we're building the Glimmering, our first game, on the Gripnr protocol. But that's not where we're stopping. What the intention is for the Gripnr protocol to be the industry standard protocol for all game designers that want to build tabletop role-playing games on the blockchain, and where you could create a tabletop module game, whatever, and go sell it on any number of platforms. Those platforms are they're gonna take anywhere between 35 and 60% of your earnings. Whereas build games on top of the Gripnr protocol, all the revenue flows through to you at 90% plus, right?
So essentially you're kind of like, is it similar to what Sandbox is doing? Sandbox is, I believe, selling the land, and developers are just using their toolkit to build their own custom games in that universe. Is it something similar to that?
It's akin to that. Yeah, certainly. I don't know enough about Sandbox's kind of take rates and how the revenue flows through from landowner to land leaser to developer. I'm not really sure, but the general understanding is that it's a lot more favorable than traditional gaming platforms. And that's the beauty of these Web3 protocols, is that they're kind of built by, managed by, and owned by those who develop on top of them, right? So there's just a lot more benefit in what you can earn through your contributions, as opposed to building for somebody else and they could decide to, people who make money on YouTube have seen their revenue go to zero because YouTube decided they wanted to change the algorithm. They've got zero recourse, right? In Web3 protocols, that's not the case.
Wow. So essentially, what is kind of the feedback from the community? Because aren't these type of games normally played at meetups and in real life settings? Is this whole doing it online, the blockchain, is that something that the community doesn't like, or is it just, kind of split?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as it relates to at a table in real life versus virtual, certainly, tabletop games have historically been in person at a table. Over the last 10 years, that has started to shift. It's a global society. The internet has enabled people to connect all around the world in real time on video chat services like we're on right now. And then the pandemic just accelerated that. So the concept of people playing these games in a distributed fashion is more common than ever, and it's not going to change at all. As it relates to the community's kind of perception of blockchain and tabletop role-playing games, to be honest, I think it's a mixed bag of about 50-50. You've got legacy traditional players who have been doing this for sometimes decades or more, and aren't really interested in seeing new technologies come to their game. And they've historically always been pushback on that kind of stuff, right? So we've seen pushback when people started financing games through Kickstarter. We saw pushback when virtual tabletop platforms like Roll20 and D&D Beyond came out. We saw pushback even with the advent of distributed gameplay over Zoom. All of those are technologies that people in the community now widely adopt, right? But they were met with some resistance, and that's not any different for us. And we're okay with that. I don't mind people feeling this isn't for them ever, or maybe not now. That's totally okay. On the flip side, we've done our own market research before we got into this, and we understand that people who play tabletop role-playing games tend to own NFTs and crypto at a larger volume than the general population, right? So we know that there's this crossover, this kind of Venn diagram of like tabletop role-playing person and NFT collector that's about 6% of US population, which is pretty remarkable if you think about it. And those are the folks that we're interested in supporting and talking to. We're not the only ones doing it. There are other projects in the space that are trying to build up tabletop role-playing games in Web3, and we're collaborating with them. We did a Twitter Spaces a few weeks ago with a couple of different projects, Scoundrels being one of them. There's another one that we're starting to collaborate with now that I'm not able to announce yet, but they've come out of the Loot for Adventurers project, which is a 8,000 plus NFT collection that I think last I checked had like a 1 ETH floor on it, right? So
Wow.
there's people in the space who see the future, believe that these protocols can benefit gameplay and can be a lot of fun, right? It doesn't mean that the old way needs to be gone or ruined or dismissed. Like, that's fine. It's just a new technology and a new way to play the game and log the outcomes. And that's it.
Yeah, and I think it's great, being from New Orleans. I think it's great seeing us kind of innovate and lead the way in this. And like you said, it's the gamers, they usually kind of get it because they already come from a primitive, Web3 NFT kind of world. But I do remember recently, I think it was Activision was working on maybe one of the Call of Duty games or something. It was in talks of integrating NFTs, and I remember some of the community was really against it. And what I, in one of my friends actually, and what I explained to him was, I was like, listen, he had been like arbitrarily like banned from, I forgot what game it was. And he had put a lot of, one of those play to win kind of games where you could buy in-game items. And when he got arbitrarily banned, he lost everything. And I was trying to explain to him, like, look, because that's not your intellectual property. That is, the game's intellectual property. So with this, do the users actually own the IP rights to their in-game items?
So they have they have commercial rights for their NFT character, right? So let's say you get some kind of, orc fighter, and you want to go turn that thing into like a beer brand or a coffee brand, or put it on a flipping t-shirt, or go get a movie deal. It doesn't, like, that's fine by all means. Like, that's the concept of composability. Put out a base layer, allow people to riff on it, and the more popular that becomes, the more it benefits the entire community that's into the project itself. So that's not IP to Gripnr, that's not IP to the Glimmering, but your NFT player character is yours, right? You can sell it, you can create derivative works with it. That's totally fine.
And that concept, that's an entirely new concept, because that hadn't been done before. I don't believe this has ever been done before, and we've seen it with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The guy opened a restaurant with his Bored Ape, and some other NFT projects are starting to talk about that. So
yeah,
I guess
Universal Music Group set up a band of Bored Apes, right? So it's completely, I mean, it's a brave new world, right? It's not really been done before. The concept of a company literally just letting their fans create derivative works with their intellectual property. Imagine Walt Disney said, hey, everybody, Mickey Mouse is yours, go build something with it, right? Like, hell no, never going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's starting to. And Bored Ape Yacht Club, I think, while there's been some bumps in the road as of late with their land minting and all the rest, the reason they have the valuation they have is that people were able to build on top of what they built and create new things. And it just increased the value of the collection itself, right? So we have our intellectual property attorneys, right, who I've worked with for years in a prior company. And that company was very much about protecting copyright. It was called Lidcore and Audio Socket, still around. When I called them with this idea of providing kind of commercial licensing rights to the NFT holders for this collection, they thought I was flipping nuts. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, and I had to explain it to them, and they eventually came around and got it. But they're, as attorneys who are IP attorneys, they're 99.9% of their business, probably everybody but us, is enforcing their IP, preventing other people from using it in any capacity. And in the Web3 world, a lot of that changes. It's a new model.
It's interesting you bring that up, because it really makes me think back. I don't play too much games now. I just simply don't have the time. But when I did, what I noticed? I used to like indie games, and I used to like custom games that were built off of other games. And, the developers would kind of open the game up and have some type of toolbox to build mods or whatnot. And I noticed those were always the kind of the best games because they were community built. So that is pretty much what y'all are building then, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Absolutely. I
Wow.
mean, the game designers, the game designer that's on Gripnr now, which is, he's not going anywhere ever. His name is Stephen Radney McFarland. He's been designing games for, Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, Paizo, and the rest for 22 years, right? So and he's got folks that work under him, some of which have been in the space even longer than he has, right?
Mhm.
So we're essentially a open, welcoming door to game designers that have really high skills to come build in this protocol. So while Steven's building the world of the Glimmering, other folks can come in and add to that world. They can also come up with their own ideas of an entirely new world and present it to Gripnr, and we'll finance the best and the brightest, give them some seed financing to go build out their world, give them all of our know-how and expertise in generative art and all the rest to get their game on our protocol.
No, wow. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. You know, and I actually went on y'all's website. So I thought it was kind of cool. Your entire team is doxed. It looked like you said a team with a ton of experience. So what's kind of the timeline? What are we looking at as far as when this game's going to be available? Is it in beta or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's really phase 1 and phase 2 of the project. Phase 1 is launching the Genesis collection of the player characters. We're almost pencils down on the artwork. Probably should be by maybe this Friday or next. And then we'll do the Genesis Mint sometime in the summer, late June to July timeframe, right? And then phase 2 is play on chain. That's when we release the platform that allows you to connect your wallet, demonstrate that you've got a player character that's ready to play, book a seat at a virtual table with a game master and other players to play the game. We've been doing design sprints for that platform, like envisioning what that tool is going to look like, the workflow, the user flow, et cetera. Those kind of the user flows are done. And now we're going into the prototyping stage to start to build out kind of the wireframes. We'll bring some of those wireframes back to the community, both players and game masters that run these games, and get their feedback and iterate. And the objective is to launch the play on chain phase 2 in the fall.
Wow. Wow. So let's say, and guys, I'm going to have all the links in the description of this video if you're interested in learning more about this project. But Brent, I want to say this from a perspective of like, maybe I'm somebody watching this that's big into this type of Dungeons and Dragons tabletop role-playing games. And maybe I'm, an indie developer. Is it too early to start contacting y'all with ideas, or is that something y'all are waiting on?
I don't think it's ever too early to build relationships and share ideas in a community like this, right? So today, we're not necessarily looking to bring on other designers to build new worlds on top of the protocol yet, because we're still building the protocol ourselves. But what we are doing is building relationships with other game designers and artists that know that they want to do it. So when we're ready, we've got that kind of stable of talent that's interacted with the community, proven their capabilities, and just set them loose, right? So it's never too late to contact, or never too early to contact us and that stuff.
Now, something I was thinking about too, when it comes to video games, it's like some video games, think of like GoldenEye, 007 for N64, like the intro songs. There's so many games that just have these iconic little jingle type songs. Will those be NFTs in your game, or how are you going to input? What's going on with the music?
Yeah, so because it's not a video game, there's not really much of a music layer to it, right? Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, I mean, so my background is music technology. I built a couple of companies in that space, and I'm a huge music fan. Our NFTs, the creative projects, so what you all are seeing on the website and on our social media, the artwork is stunning, but you're not seeing even half of the picture. There's going to be kind of motion graphic elements behind it, as well as audio within the NFT itself. So that's where music will apply, is in the NFTs that we're creating. But in the game world itself, when you're at a table with your buddies, the soundtrack is whatever y'all want to listen to. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, what about this? So like, let's say somebody who is an avid, whether it be Magic the Gathering, Dungeon, any of these type of games, when this game is fully developed, will a lot of the same elements, kind of, it's just basically an online version of that?
Yeah, it's a blockchain version of that, right? So you're still going to play these games. You can even play them at a table. It's just that the outcomes of the game. So, classic Kev went on this adventure, killed these dragons, got these swords, got these, this experience points. That outcome is logged to your NFT. And over time, as your character levels up, it's the artwork itself is going to start to morph and change.
Wow. Wow. So that's something, a lot of NFTs I know are talking about doing, having their NFT either mutate or do stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I guess the analogy I guess I'd be looking for is, say, like, I've played MMOs like World of Warcraft or EverQuest. I've played these type of games before, and I noticed that in these primitive metaverses you would see characters with a legendary helmet or an epic sword or something. So I'm assuming that's what y'all have kind of baked in.
Yeah, it's both the weapons, the armor, and the look itself, right? So, you might get some battle scars, and that scar might show up on your NFT's face or something, right? So, the art evolves over time based on gameplay itself.
Oh, wow. And that, I think that's something that progression feature, that's what players like. Players like, upgrading visual elements. So is that something that was really important to y'all in doing this?
Yeah, I mean, it was the idea came early into the project because we understood that you could do it. I mean, what does a level 1 character look like versus a level 20? Like, in your own mind, as you're playing these games, you envision something very different, right? Because of their experiences, their journeys. All of these games are storytelling, right? And as stories evolve, obviously a character itself would evolve. So it seemed natural to us that the artwork would too.
Mhm.
And the technical decisions that we made, not only in blockchain, but also in how we approached, the smart contracts and everything else, are really intended to enable the kind of evolution of the NFT character itself.
Yeah. So what about the element, and that's, when we're going into this phase of like Web3 game, and the big buzzword is the play to earn type of mechanics. Now, before that, there was a mechanic that a lot of people didn't like, and that was the pay to win mechanic, where you could buy in-game items to, catch up to your friends, to level up faster. Is that something y'all are integrating? Is there going to be any type of pay to win, or it's just going to be strictly progression based?
Yeah, it's progression based, right? So if you've got a level 3 character, there could be a level 20 sword out there on the marketplace. You can go buy it if you want. You can't play with it because it's a level 20 sword and you're a level 3 character, right? So it's play to progress and not pay to win. Pay to win.
Well, is there any gameplay videos that are currently out, Brent?
We did record one session a couple of months ago. I don't think we've put it up on YouTube. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do a game with our art team, and our lead game designer is going to be the game master that runs that game, and we're going to live stream that and record it for people to watch later. So yeah, there's more coming on that front.
Nice. And so y'all are big in these communities though, right? Your team, y'all have, background with these Dungeon and Drag tabletop communities though, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so everybody in the team, for the most part, not everybody, but the majority of us have played D&D and tabletop games off and on throughout our lives. Stephen, our lead game designer, has played and never stopped playing. Patrick Comer, my co-founder, very similar. He's been playing all of his life. He still does, very active. Everybody in the artist team. So yeah, we're doing this because we love it. We're fans of it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really important to note, because if you have a passion for that, as a gamer and a player, you kind of know what you want, what you don't want, what you want the game to be. Now, I'll definitely try it because it's something I've never really, as far as gaming, I don't think I've ever played one before, but I know people that do. I see how big these communities are. I think in Metairie that there's a place where people go and meet up and play on Veterans Highway, I believe.
Yeah,
So.
there is, and there's one on Oak Street. You'd be great at this, Kevin, because you're a natural storyteller, and D&D is all about, in these tabletop games in general, they're all about telling stories, right? So your character is faced with this moment in time. What do you want to do, all right? And you're telling these stories collectively with other players around the table. I think we need to get you on a game. You'd do great.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Well, look, Brent, we're running out of time. Is there anything else you want to leave us with about this project?
I think I'm building with the strongest team I've ever built with in my life. I've created a number of companies, and I come to work every day and I look at the leadership in Gripnr, and I'm just humbled and blown away by their talent, their innate abilities, and their passion for what we're doing. And it's just an honor to have the opportunity to do it. And lastly, I love seeing it happen in New Orleans. Being a native of the city, born and raised here, watching us, really have our, that first turn of the flywheel, the successes building in the entrepreneurial community. And now we're trying to bring the new technologies, the Web3 into the space locally, and seeing folks like us and Gilded build on top of these platforms is a massive opportunity for everybody in the city. And I just want to encourage everyone to dive in, learn more about it, and get involved in whichever way you can and feels natural to you, because the future is here now, and New Orleans has an opportunity to lead in the space.
Oh, no, I think you're right, because, we're seeing cities like Miami or, San Francisco, New York, really jump ahead with the blockchain technology, but I think with a project like this and having early success, and with the team that y'all have, that your success can really open the door for a lot of other New Orleans startups to come in. It doesn't necessarily have to be a blockchain based game. And there's so many different protocols that,
Right.
people need, decentralized applications that people need. So I think that's really awesome what y'all doing, man. And I definitely will, continue to cover this project on my channel, and really looking forward to trying it,
Yeah, let's get you involved, Kevin. Really appreciate the support, man. It's been great speaking with you here this morning, and interacting with you on the new society stuff, and whatever we can do to support your efforts, let us know.
Yeah, and as far as the new society goes, and I've talked about it on this channel before, again, it's another project that I'm super excited to be a part of, because it's finally good to see New Orleans ahead of the curve on, something
Nice?
technology and entrepreneurial based, because I don't think the average person really knows how big, this project or new society really can be. I think we'll look back a year from now, and I probably can't even envision how big it could really be.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to grow it, grow it, grow it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Brent, thank you so much for coming on, man. We definitely we'll keep in touch with you, and maybe bring you back on, maybe closer to when y'all officially launch. But and maybe I'll do a live stream of me playing or something, and maybe we can try to get a game in. I'm definitely interested to check that out.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll make it happen.
Anyway, y'all, I'm Classic Kev. This is Brent McCrossen. I'm going to have all the links to this project in the description of this video. So if you could, just please like, comment, subscribe. Brent, have a great day, my friend.
You too, brother. Thanks again.